The Horcrux Ritual. The Horcrux Ritual is a form of dark magic that fractures the soul and binds a detached fragment to a chosen object, anchoring the caster's existence to the physical world. The process requires an act of murder, as the deliberate taking of a life is the only force powerful enough to tear the soul. After the murder, the caster performs additional, undisclosed spellwork to extract the fragment and fuse it into a vessel. This sequence is irreversible. Once the soul is divided, it cannot be made whole by magical means. The ritual severely degrades the caster's humanity, diminishing emotional capacity and destabilizing identity with each repetition. Only Voldemort is known to have performed the ritual multiple times, embedding pieces of his soul into objects such as the diary, ring, and locket. The ritual's defining property is permanence. The altered soul remains bound until the vessel is destroyed. Voldemort's Blood Magic Rebirth Ritual. Voldemort's rebirth ritual is a complex form of dark blood magic designed to create a new physical body for a disembodied soul. The ritual requires three components: bone taken from the father's remains, flesh willingly offered by a servant, and blood taken from an enemy. Each element contributes a specific magical property: ancestral link, voluntary sacrifice, and life-binding connection, allowing the reconstructed body to support the displaced soul. The ritual's cauldron mixture is activated with precise incantations and controlled magical energy, enabling the soul to fuse with the newly formed body. Because it bypasses natural life processes, the resulting form carries unique magical traits, including resilience to certain protections. Voldemort's use of Harry's blood also extended Lily's sacrificial protection into his own reborn body, creating an unintended link between them. The ritual's defining characteristic is its permanence. Once completed, the new body functions as a full vessel for the restored wizard. Inferius Animation. Inferius animation is a dark magical process that reanimates human corpses into controlled, obedient constructs known as inferi. The spell does not restore life. Instead, it imbues the body with external magical force that allows movement, coordination, and responsiveness to commands. Inferi lack consciousness, memory, and independent action. They operate solely according to the caster's directives and cannot think, communicate, or deviate from instructions. The magic sustaining them reacts poorly to light and fire, which disrupt or repel the animated bodies. Creating and maintaining a group of inferi requires considerable magical strength, as each corpse must be animated and controlled simultaneously. Voldemort demonstrated mastery of this process by populating the cave surrounding the Horcrux locket with an entire submerged army, each prepared to respond to intrusion. Inferius animation is considered strictly illegal due to its use of human remains, its potential for large-scale harm, and the moral severity of manipulating the dead. Dumbledore's Firestorm. Dumbledore's Firestorm is an advanced conjuration of controlled magical fire capable of forming a protective barrier while simultaneously destroying targeted threats. The spell produces a rapidly expanding ring of flame that can be shaped, directed, and sustained with precise wand movement and continuous magical focus. Unlike Fiendfire, this fire does not behave autonomously. It responds directly to the caster's control, allowing selective protection and targeted destruction within the same cast. In the Horcrux cave, the spell's effectiveness was evident as it eradicated the surrounding inferi without harming Harry, demonstrating a level of precision rarely shown in elemental magic. The spell's successful use inside a magically resistant environment indicates Dumbledore's ability to override suppressive enchantments while maintaining stable fire control. Its defining characteristic is the combination of immense power and exact guidance, producing destructive force without sacrificing protective intent. Fiendfire is a highly advanced form of cursed fire characterized by its ability to grow, hunt, and consume targets autonomously. Once conjured, the flames develop into large, shifting shapes, often resembling serpents, dragons, or other beasts, driven by dark magical energy rather than the caster's direct control. The spell's destructive capacity is extreme. Fiendfire can burn through most magical protections and is one of the few forces capable of destroying Horcruxes. Its movement is unpredictable and becomes increasingly aggressive as it expands, making containment nearly impossible without specialized mastery. The caster must exert continuous magical control to prevent the fire from turning on unintended targets, and even skilled dark wizards rarely risk using it. Crabbe's conjuration in the Room of Requirement illustrates the danger. the fire rapidly overwhelmed its caster and consumed the space entirely. The defining characteristic of Fiendfire is its lethal autonomy, which persists until the flames exhaust available material or the caster is overcome. Protego Diabolica. Protego Diabolica is a dark defensive enchantment that generates a ring of blue fire capable of both shielding allies and eliminating enemies. The fire forms a continuous barrier that reacts to the intent of anyone attempting to cross it. Individuals aligned with the caster's purpose can pass through unharmed, while those who hesitate or harbor opposing intent are instantly consumed. The fire's behavior indicates that the spell evaluates allegiance, rather than simply blocking physical entry. Its conjuration requires advanced control of elemental and intent-based magic, as the flames maintain structure, color, and selective permeability simultaneously. Grindelwald's use of the spell demonstrates its primary function, establishing a boundary that filters loyalty and enforces it through immediate consequences. Unlike conventional protective shields, Protego Diabolica operates as both a ward and an execution mechanism. Its defining characteristic is the integration of emotional alignment into the barrier's lethal response. Priori Incantatem. Priori Incantatem is a rare magical phenomenon that occurs when two wands containing twin cores taken from the same magical creature, attempt to duel against one another. When this happens, the wands refuse to directly engage, causing their spells to connect and form a stable beam of magical energy between them. The dominant wand forces the other to undergo a reverse spell effect, releasing echoes of the most recent spells it has cast. These echoes appear as spectral recreations rather than physical recreations, allowing observers to witness the wand's magical history. The effect is not controlled by the casters. It is dictated entirely by the relationship between the two wands and their shared magical origin. During the graveyard duel, Voldemort's wand produced echoes of his victims, demonstrating the phenomenon's capacity to reveal concealed actions. The defining characteristic of Priori Incantatem is its dependence on wand lineage, making it impossible to replicate intentionally. Apparition, Voldemort's variant. Apparition is the magical method of instantaneous travel that requires concentration on the destination and adherence to the principles known as the 3Ds: destination, determination, and deliberation. Standard apparition is restricted by protective enchantments, including anti-apparition wards placed around sensitive or secure locations. Voldemort's variant bypasses these constraints through dark magical modification of the technique. His movements include a smoke-like distortion and the ability to travel within warded areas, indicating an altered form of magical displacement rather than conventional apparition. This enhancement also enables sustained airborne movement, blending apparition with unsupported flight. Such capabilities require significant magical power and intimate knowledge of dark transformation spells. Observed during the Battle of the Seven Potters and at Hogwarts, Voldemort's variant demonstrates a form of travel that ignores standard limitations. The defining characteristic of this method is its ability to override protective barriers normally considered absolute. Avada Kedavra. Avada Kedavra! No! Cedric! Avada Kedavra is the Killing Curse, a dark spell designed to end life instantly without leaving external marks or visible wounds. Its effect is the immediate severing of the target's vital connection to their own life force, producing death the moment the curse makes contact. The spell requires a spoken incantation and a precise alignment of intent. The caster must genuinely desire the target's death for the magic to activate. This emotional requirement is why the aged curse fails for anyone unable to summon that level of lethal will. Avada Kedavra bypasses most defensive magic because it does not rely on physical harm, but on direct magical termination. Only exceptionally powerful casters can generate the force needed for a successful strike. Canon examples include Voldemort's attacks on the Potters, the killing of Cedric Diggory, and multiple instances during the Wizarding Wars. In all cases, the result is immediate, irreversible, and absolute. Sectum Sempra. Sectum Sempra is a dark-cutting curse created by Severus Snape during his time as a student. The spell inflicts deep, rapidly bleeding wounds on the target as if struck by invisible blades. Its activation requires only the spoken incantation, making it both accessible and highly dangerous. The curse operates through magically generated force rather than physical contact, allowing it to cut through clothing and strike directly at exposed areas. Because the wounds are magically inflicted, they resist conventional healing methods and can cause severe blood loss within seconds. The only reliable counter is Vulnera Sanantur, a specialized healing incantation Snape also developed to reverse the curse's effects. Sectum Semper's danger lies in its unpredictability. Inexperienced casters can inflict lethal damage unintentionally. Harry's use of the spell against Draco in the bathroom demonstrates its severity, showing rapid blood flow and near-fatal injury. Its defining property is the creation of unrestrained, magically driven lacerations. Langlock is a jinx that targets the victim's ability to speak by adhering their tongue to the roof of their mouth. The spell is activated through a spoken incantation directed at the target, causing an immediate and complete loss of verbal function. Because many spells rely on spoken words for proper execution, Langlock effectively disables a wizard's spellcasting capabilities during a confrontation. The jinx does not cause physical harm beyond immobilizing the tongue, but its impact on combat is significant, forcing opponents into silence and preventing the formation of incantations. The effect persists until countered or until the caster reverses it. Snape created this jinx during his years at Hogwarts, demonstrating its use as a disruptive tactic rather than a destructive one. Harry's successful application against Peeves illustrates its reliability and speed. The defining characteristic of Langlock is its direct interference with verbal spellcasting. The Taboo Curse. The taboo is a dark magical tracking enchantment that binds itself to a spoken word or name, transforming that word into a beacon that reveals the speaker's location. In the Second Wizarding War, Voldemort applied the taboo to his own name, causing any utterance of Voldemort to break protective enchantments and transmit the exact coordinates of the speaker to Death Eaters or Snatchers. The spell functions by overriding concealment magic, bypassing protective barriers, and momentarily weakening defensive enchantments when the key word is spoken. Because the taboo is triggered by speech, it operates instantly and leaves no visible sign of activation. It can only be resisted by avoiding the designated word entirely. Its primary purpose is surveillance and control, using fear to prevent open discussion of the targeted name. The defining property of the taboo is its ability to convert language itself into a tracking mechanism. Blood Pact Magic. Blood Pact Magic is an ancient and exceedingly rare form of binding enchantment, created when two wizards merge drops of their blood into a single, shared vessel. This act forms a magical contract that prevents the participants from directly harming one another. The pact's magic is anchored to the physical container holding the merged blood, making the object itself the conduit through which the restriction is enforced. As long as the vessel remains intact, the pact remains active, overriding spells, intent, and direct acts of aggression. Unlike the unbreakable vow, the blood pact functions as a mutual restriction rather than a conditional promise. It regulates action by blocking hostile intent before it can materialize into spellcasting. The pact between Dumbledore and Grindelwald demonstrates its durability. Neither could confront the other until the vessel containing their combined blood was destroyed. The defining property of blood pact magic is its permanence and its reliance on shared will. The Unbreakable Vow. The Unbreakable Vow is a binding magical contract that enforces agreed-upon terms with the highest possible consequence, death upon violation. To create the vow, two participants clasp hands, while a third wizard, known as the Bonder, seals each spoken promise with a strand of magical fire. These flames wrap around the joined hands, embedding the terms directly into the vow-maker's magic. Once sealed, the vow monitors intent rather than literal wording. If the vow-maker fails to uphold the conditions in spirit or action, the enchantment activates instantly, causing immediate death with no counter-curse or delay. The vow cannot be altered, dissolved, or renegotiated after formation. Its enforcement is absolute, functioning independently of external magic or intervention. Severus Snape's vow with Narcissa Malfoy illustrates the spell's design. Once bound, the caster must fulfill the promise regardless of circumstance or consequence. Lily's Sacrificial Protection. Lily's Sacrificial Protection is an ancient form of blood magic triggered when a witch or wizard willingly dies to save another. The protection forms at the moment of death, creating a defensive bond that shields the intended target from direct harm by the attacker. This magic requires no incantation, wand movement, or ritual components. Its activation depends entirely on the purity of the sacrificial act. The protection operates by rejecting lethal intent directed at the protected individual, causing hostile spells to rebound rather than strike. Its power persists through blood ties, allowing the safeguarded person to carry the protection as long as the shared bloodline remains active. Harry retained this protection both in Privet Drive and later when Voldemort incorporated Harry's blood into his reborn body. The defining characteristic of this magic is its exclusivity. It cannot be taught, replicated artificially, or produced through conventional spellcasting. The Maledictus Blood Curse. The Maledictus blood curse is a hereditary condition passed from mother to daughter, causing the carrier to undergo periodic transformations into a specific animal form. These transformations begin as reversible but intensify over time, eventually resulting in a permanent shift in which the human identity is lost. The curse differs from natural shape-shifting abilities, such as Metamorph Magus talent or Animagus transformation, because it is involuntary, progressive, and irreversible. The magic operates through the carrier's bloodline rather than through spellcasting, meaning no incantation or ritual is involved once the curse is inherited. The transformations follow a predictable decline. Control diminishes, animal traits intensify, and the final state cannot be undone by magical or medicinal means. Nagini's portrayal in the Fantastic Beasts series illustrates the curse's progression, showing her gradual loss of stability between human and serpent form. The defining characteristic of the Maledictus curse is its inevitability and its complete lack of known cure. Legilimency. Legilimency is the magical discipline that allows a wizard to perceive another person's thoughts, emotions, and memories through direct mental intrusion. It does not extract fully formed ideas like a pensieve. Instead, it senses surface thoughts, emotional states, and accessible memories that rise when the target's defenses weaken. Legilimency can be performed with or without a wand, though wand use increases precision and force. The process relies on focused intent and often requires eye contact to stabilize the connection. The spell becomes significantly more invasive when applied by a skilled practitioner, enabling them to sift through recollections or detect concealed emotions. Because the intrusion occurs directly within the target's mind, conventional physical defenses are ineffective. Canon masters include Voldemort, Snape, and Queenie Goldstein, each demonstrating different levels of subtlety and power. The defining property of legilimency is its ability to bypass spoken truth and access internal reality. Occlumency. Occlumency is the defensive counterpart to legilimency, designed to protect the mind from intrusion, observation, and manipulation. The discipline involves building mental barriers that conceal thoughts, memories, and emotions from external influence. Occlumency does not rely on a single spell. Rather, it is a learned mental practice requiring sustained focus, emotional control, and deliberate suppression of reactive thoughts. When performed effectively, it prevents legilimens users from accessing coherent information or recognizable emotional signals. Skilled practitioners can present false impressions, redirect attention, or create mental blankness to obscure their true state. The effectiveness of occlumency depends on consistency and training. Lapses in emotional control weaken the barrier and allow unwanted access. Snape's ability to conceal his intentions from Voldemort illustrates the discipline's upper limits. The defining characteristic of occlumency is its reliance on internal discipline rather than magical power, making the mind itself the primary protective structure. The Cave Potion, Drink of Despair. The Drink of Despair is a magically fortified potion created to incapacitate anyone attempting to access the Locket Horcrux. The potion cannot be vanished, siphoned, or bypassed. The only method of clearing the basin is to consume it. Once ingested, it induces progressively worsening effects, including extreme thirst, physical weakness, panic, hallucinations, and psychological torment. These symptoms are not illusions, but magically enforced states that override the victim's ability to resist or recover. The potion also prevents the drinker from defending themselves, leaving them vulnerable to external threats. Its structure is designed so that any attempt to relieve the induced thirst, such as summoning water, activates the surrounding inferi. Dumbledore's reaction in the cave illustrates the potion's function. It overwhelms both body and mind while maintaining consciousness. No known antidote exists, and the effects must be endured until the potion's influence naturally subsides. Mors Mortar, the Dark Mark. Mors Mortar is the spell used to conjure the Dark Mark, a large spectral image consisting of a green skull with a serpent emerging from its mouth. The mark functions as a symbolic declaration of Death Eater activity, typically cast above locations associated with violence or intimidation. The spell requires a wand and the spoken incantation, producing a floating, luminescent projection that remains visible for an extended period. The Dark Mark is tied to Voldemort's followers, reflecting their allegiance and serving as a psychological weapon to instill fear. Casting the spell is illegal due to its association with murder and terrorist activity during both Wizarding Wars. Its appearance above the Quidditch World Cup campsite and over Hogwarts after Dumbledore's death demonstrates its role as a deliberate signal. The defining characteristic of Morse Mortar is its use as a magical insignia that communicates presence, control, and threat.